I think the tone matters in how I say the title, because when I say it like, these are the worst books of 2019, it sounds like I mean what I say. But when I say it like, these are the worst books of 2019, you can sense and hear the hesitancy and the subjectiveness around it, and you kind of get an idea that this is her personal shit, so there's no need to light your torches and raise your pitchforks, because I'm scared. Hi, my name is Trish, and in this video I'll be talking about the worst books that I read in 2019. Obviously, this list is very subjective. I'm not saying that these are the worst books of 2019, period. I'm just saying that these are the worst books that I read that I thought were really bad. So there's no reason for anyone to take this personally, because
how do you know what's good for me? That's my opinion!
The first book on my list is A Gathering of Shadows by V. Schwab, and putting this book in this list was painful for me because I really wanted to like the series. I thought the first book was ingenious and creative and fun, and the characters were introduced really well, so by the time I got to the second book I was really excited for it. And the whole experience, my whole experience with the second book was just really frustrating. It was hard for me to even find the motivation to just finish it. I'm sad to say that the reason why I found it so bad was because of Lila Bard. Don't get me wrong, Lila Bard as a character is someone I really liked in the first book and someone I really want to like for the rest of the series. I just didn't quite like the direction that her character development took. I just don't get why she had to be given powers in the second book when she was already established as a formidable character without the powers in the first book. It also didn't help that Lila's arrogance was like dialed up to the maximum capacity. I have no problem with arrogant characters. It's just that Lila in the context of the second book was she's in a foreign and wholly different world. She clearly has no idea where and what and how to live here, and she has very few to no friends, and yet she won't take any help, she won't take any assistance, she won't take anyone teaching her anything. And it's just this unfounded arrogance that was very clearly different. To make matters worse, Lila's character just didn't have any struggle to face in the second book. She was just instantly good at everything, and everyone was just praising her, and it was like the whole book was this set up to just forcefully show how cool Lila's character is. Even though that was already established in the first book, it was just an overload of compliments, even if it wasn't, I don't know how to say it, but even if it wasn't earned, or even for the most mundane things, from the way she walked to the way she handled Kel's coat, it was just too much. It was too much. Lila was doing the bare minimum, and people would regard her as bruh. It just I don't understand. Why is her character suddenly going in this direction? No, I think I would have appreciated it more if she got her powers with some sort of struggle, but she's just automatically good at it, and it didn't help that she even overpowered Kel at one point. Like, give her something to struggle with, give her something that can challenge her and ground her character. Having said all that, I have decided to reread the series from the beginning this year because I really do want to finish and like the series and like Lila Bard, and I think that now that I know what I'm getting myself into, I won't be as critical. So here's hoping that my reread will be a whole different and better experience than my first one. The next book on my list is Final Girls by Riley Sager. Final Girls follows our main protagonist who has survived this terrible massacre in the woods that has killed all of her friends, and the press dubs her as a final girl along with two other women who have gone through the same experience. Well, not the exact same kind of experience, but all three of them have been inches away from death at the hands of a killer, so they have that in common. Years pass and our main character is trying to live past the trauma and build a life for herself and everything seems to be going well until one of the final girls dies from an apparent suicide, and the other final girl shows up in her house and says no, she didn't commit suicide, she was murdered, and we have to solve this shit. And everything goes to hell from that point on. And when I say everything, I mean the story, the characters, my overall reading experience, just
Krakatawa!
Final Girls was just an overall meh experience for me. If you ask me personally, I think the story shouldn't have happened in the first place. The story only happened because the main character, against all rational thought, decided it would be a good idea to let a stranger stay in her house for 2 weeks. That wouldn't fly in the real world, in any logical world. From the start, the story already had a weak foundation, a weak start, and so the story just wasn't as strong the whole way through, and the characters just became more unbearable and frustrating, and that ending was just the most stereotypical and cheesiest mystery thriller ending I've read. It wasn't a pleasant read. The third book on my list is Undead Girl Gang by Lily Anderson. The story follows a girl who uses witchcraft to resurrect her dead best friend, and unfortunately also resurrects 2 of her bullies who have died the week before her best friend did. They become this ragtag team who go to investigate who their murderer was and to stop him before he kills anyone else. I was expecting something of a Charmed vibe to this book, because there's witchcraft, there's friendship, there's girl power, uniting against a common enemy, a murder mystery. It had all the good elements, but the book was just sadly very boring. It had a really problematic and slow plot, and I'm starting to see a pattern here where most of the books in this list have main characters that I found frustrating and didn't like. So this book has one of those characters. The book actually starts with our main character attending her best friend's funeral. There's this scene where her best friend's brother, whom she's had a crush on for forever, delivers a eulogy, and I think this is the moment that I just couldn't take her seriously, because throughout the eulogy for her dead best friend, I'm going to reiterate that lots of times here, she was thinking about how soft her crush's hair was and how it would feel like if she ran her hands through them during her dead best friend's eulogy. And this is not the only scene where something like that happens. There's another scene where there's this serious subplot happening and our main character crashes into her crush, her that best friend's brother, and she gets distracted because it's just so damn hot. And I don't know, I just can't understand, because throughout the book there's this emphasis on how our main character is going through this really deep grief on losing her best friend, and yet she gets distracted in a second by the sight of her crush. I can't connect it. I can't connect the logic.
The inner machinations of my mind are an enigma.
It also didn't help that this book was written in first-person point of view, and that point of view happens to be the main character. Of course, it's a character's point of view, so it's going to be biased by her opinions and her views and how she looks at other people. I believe that a main character is portrayed just as strongly as the side characters are portrayed, and unfortunately in this book the side characters were just there. They were two-dimensional. They basically had one personality trait to them, and to make matters worse, everyone just seemed awful and bad except for the main character and the people she liked. And I know that this portrayal might have been kind of warped and biased because we're following the main character's point of view, so yeah, our views of the side characters are affected by how she views them, and basically there's just this whole negative tone throughout the entire book. It's not something that I want to follow 100, 200 pages further. It was just a really draining experience, and it made me feel down and upset instead of excited and supportive towards the character. And when it came to the friendship and girl power, there wasn't even much of that. It was just a lot of bickering and fighting, and if there was ever a moment of realization that, hey, not everyone's the way I thought they were, it didn't have have as much impact as I guess the author wanted it to have, for me at least. So the slow plot, the lack of witchy vibes, the lack of friendship themes, and the frustrating characters really didn't help in making my reading experience with this book pleasant. So the next book on my list is The Hunting of Ashbourne House by Darcy Coates. And this is one of the worst books that I've read, period. I'm not saying that these are the worst books of 2019, period.
I'm not saying that these are the worst books of 2019, period.
I'm really frustrated about this book. I'm really bitter and salty about it because I was really excited for it. A haunted house is a timeless and classic trope that's so hard to get wrong, and yet in this book, it did. So my baby cousins are awake and they're crying. Adorable.
Thank you. Say thank you.
So, The Hunting of Ashbourne House. Where do I begin? Synopsis. So it follows this girl who has just inherited this old family house from a dead relative she never knew existed, and so she moves there and scary shit starts to happen. My thoughts. This was the first time that I was genuinely jealous of a fictional character because she just inherited a house for free. I don't care if I have to be roommates with Lucifer himself. If it means that I get a free house, hell yeah. Bitch, it's a free house. And in this economy,
House is free! It's a free house!
It's free real estate.
but on the other hand, I don't want to say she's stupid, but she kinda is. If you're told that you're inheriting a house from a relative you never knew existed, the most logical next step would be to research. I mean, she's a writer. There's this instinct to always dig deeper, and I don't understand why she couldn't hop into her laptop, Google about this relative, because she has all the details now. You know, the house is connected to some really shady dark stuff before that's been reported in lots of newspapers back in the days. So I don't know why she didn't do that. If she did, she would have known what she was getting into, and I wouldn't have wasted hundreds and hundreds of pages reading about her daily routine, because that's basically the plot. It's like the story didn't know how to unfold itself, so it decided to just go through the main character's daily routine to find an opportunity to insert something informative or something scary here and there. If I had to read about that goddamn kettle and Adrian making tea one more fucking time, I would have Jesus take the wheel, because how many times do I have to read about Adrian making tea and preparing instant noodles? That's my life. I don't need to read about it chapter after chapter. The scene that really broke me was that one scene where Adrian spent an entire paragraph explaining why she had to charge her laptop. I don't need to know why you have to charge your laptop. Almost everyone on God's green earth has had to deal with charging low batteries. So why are you explaining this to me? Just give me something scary. Basically, I gave up on this book even before I reached the halfway mark. I practically speed read the rest of the book. The scary parts were too far apart, and everything in between was just not even contributing to the story, that by the time something did happen, it wasn't even worth it anymore. Conceal, don't feel. The last book on my list is The Au Pair by Emma Rose, and I've actually already done a drunken expose on this book, so I will link that video on the description below. But here's a quick recap. So it's about this girl who's investigating some dark family secret about their mother who died on the day she and her twin brother were born, and it appears like not everything in their family is what it seems, so there. So the mystery in itself was actually really good. I thought it was thrilling and creative. Why did I hate it? Well, the main character is a whiny, spoiled brat. That's all I can really say. I've already spent enough time and frustration and effort and booze. I don't want to go through that anymore. She's just really unlikable. So those are the worst books that I read in 2019. I'm hoping not to bring this negative energy into 2020, but